Welcome to the Ascend Your Success podcast. Whether you're just starting out or are a veteran looking to grow your business, you're in the right place. Join us to learn how to achieve financial freedom while working and living life on your own terms. Hear valuable insights, strategies, and interviews with successful entrepreneurs. Get ready to achieve the success you've always dreamed of. Ready? Let's go.
What's going on, guys? My name is Wyatt Reed, and this is the Ascend Your Success podcast. And today I get to interview my friend David Olds, and I know this is going to be a really good one because we always have great conversations. I just don't know that we're going to have enough time for all the crap we always talk about.
No, I know. I get on these sometimes and like, we're going to do it in 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, we'll take a shot at it.
Well, man, you've been in the game for a long time, and just tell us about like pre-real estate David and like what got you into this game.
Yeah, 22 years I've been doing this, man. It's a ridiculous amount of time. I tell people I was just too dumb to quit. Right? Like I wasn't smart enough to give it up. I grew up in Boston, like not. I don't have some horrible story. My parents were just normal middle-class people. I went to like a private all-boys Catholic school. My parents really struggled to get me in there and make those payments. Great upbringing. I was a Boy Scout, went to college, went to UMass. I have a degree in criminal justice, which I never, ever used except when I was dealing with some of my tenants. And I got out of college and ended up working in retail. But kind of growing up, my dad was he was ex-Army, so he was the fix the house guy, right? Like we do everything ourselves. We don't have anybody else come in. We change engines in the car. We build. We put up drywall. We do all those things. So of course I hated that, right? Like as a kid growing up, I had to do like chores every day, and like I remember saying one time, Wyatt, I'm like, when I grow up, my kids are never going to have to rake the grass. I'm going to live in a condo. They're never going to have to, push a lawnmower for over a whole acre, like all kinds of that. So it was funny. I hated doing all those things as a kid, but what do? We grew up and really become our parents. So it's kind of funny. My parents moved to Florida after I got out of college, and I decided to move down there because the weather was so much better than being in Boston. And I went to work for this hardware company called Scotty's Hardware Stores, and there were, I think, 177 of them in the state of Florida. So I became their youngest store manager. So now I'm still working in that world, dealing with contractors, dealing with homeowners, and got married, and my wife and I went and bought our first house. And weirdly, it was a foreclosure in 2002, which nobody even knew what a foreclosure was then. But I bought the house and like fixed it up, right? Like, cause that's what I did my whole life, right? I'm like, oh, this pink carpet sucks. Let's put in laminate. These kitchen cabinets suck. Let's fix them. Let's change out this sliding door to a French door and all those kinds of things. And anyways, sold the house 2 years later to move a little closer to the new spot where I was working. And we made like $50,000. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. And, my agent said to me as we were going into closing, she's like, hey, you don't have to pay taxes on that. I'm like, what? What do you mean? She's like, yeah, dummy, it's tax free because, you live there. It's a homestead exemption. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So we went and bought another house, which was, the investor's dream. It was an ugly house in a beautiful, beautiful, like neighborhood, all brick houses with these big oak trees and a pool. Like it was really great, and way overspent on that, more than I ever should have paid. $200,000 back in, I don't know, 04, 05, something like that. Or maybe 03 or 4. I don't know. 3 or 4. Yeah. And, did the same thing, fixed that one up. This was a much bigger job, brought in like dirt, like 30 loads of dirt to level out the yard, all kinds of stuff. And sold that one and made $100,000. And I'm like, oh, we need to figure this out. This is kind of cool. And so I was at the airport, the most cliche thing ever in the bookstore, waiting on someone to arrive. And I pick up, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just randomly picked it up and started reading it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. So bought it, went home, just devoured because, it's not that tough of a read. And if anybody has not read that, you definitely should. I mean, it's changed 90% of investors are in this business because of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But anyways, at the end, it said, hey, if you want to be in real estate, you want to find a real estate REIA or meetup or something like that. So I did that and got involved in the one in Central Florida. It's CFRI, Central Florida Real Estate Investors. And kind of that was where it started, man. I just started going to all the meetups, got a good coach like you. took all the classes, the boot camps, the seminars, just all of the things, and just tried to build that foundation of just knowledge. And I just like devoured it, really consumed it. And then, we kind of just started buying houses and doing some more rehabs. And that was it. That was sort of what my wife and I did until 2008, until the end times, till the market crashed. And, we kind of got stuck with our last house in Florida. It was, longer story than you want to get into, but, ended up having to lease option it because we couldn't sell it because the market had dropped 25% in like 6 months. It was an unbelievable drop. And yeah, that's how we ended up here in Chattanooga, flat broke, moved here for real estate. And, had to do something, right? I had a wife, 2 boys, and 3 fat dogs. So, we started wholesaling. That wasn't something that we had tried it in Florida, but it really didn't work, which is people are always, think that's weird because I've wholesaled so many houses, but, it just didn't work. Probably because we both had great jobs. We were flipping a couple of houses a year. Like we had money. We didn't need it to work. So, I just thought we throw out some signs and whatever happened. But, moved up here. And literally out of desperation, we had to wholesale. Had no money. Like basically we burned up all of our cash. So got into wholesaling. We did like 30 deals our first year. Just wow. like it was, the typical thing you see on Facebook, burn the boats, which I don't recommend to anybody, especially if you're married and have kids. That's a dumb thing to do. But yeah, moved up here, knew nobody. But we moved here for real estate. We researched the market. We knew that this was going to be a good place to be. And I think the reason we were so successful is because, we were focused. Like that's one thing that I have is extreme focus where, real estate, by the time my feet hit the ground in the morning, that was the first thing I thought about. It was the thing I did all day. It was the last thing I thought about before I went to bed. It was literally, I was consumed with it and making sure that, that we were doing everything we could. And real estate back then was different than it is now. Different, you're still buying low, selling high, right? But there was no texting, there was no cold callers, there was no Facebook, there was no Google, there was no pay-per-click or pay-per-lead. Like none of that existed. It was bandit signs, driving for dollars, yellow letters. Maybe if you were smart, you could download a list from PropStream, or not PropStream. PropStream didn't exist. ListSource, and find a mail house and get that done. But yeah, those were your lead sources. So bandit signs were huge back then. We put out over 100 of them every single week, plus all the driving for dollars and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we were super busy.
That's crazy, man. I think you did a couple of things right here. I think you did the opposite of what everybody does. They do real estate and then move to Florida. You moved to Florida and then done real estate, right? Man,
it was hot down there, dude. After growing up in Boston, I lived in Florida from 93 to 2009. So what's that, 16 years? Like my wife at the time, we were both like, yeah, we want to move someplace closer, cooler, but not back to the snow. Like she was from Michigan and Pennsylvania and I was from Boston, almost New Hampshire. And I did not want to live in that snow. So Tennessee is the perfect kind of middle ground, right? Chattanooga is a beautiful place.
Yeah. All my mentors have been in Florida so far for the most part. But I agree with you. I'd much rather be in Tennessee, and I'll just visit Florida. I'll have a house down there, but not live down there.
The humidity's crazy. I lived all over too. I was in the Keys and Tampa, West Palm. I lived all up and down the coast of Vero. Yeah, I was everywhere.
So I think it's important to just kind of talk about that lead generation that you were discussing. Yeah. So the bandit signs, the yellow letters, that stuff was doing the 30 deals the first year? Is that how you got all your leads the first year?
Really, bandit signs. I'm going to tell you, bandit signs still work. Now, does the city going to hate you? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Are you going to be dodging their calls? Yep. But they work. That's why churches use them. That's why soccer teams use them. That's why realtors use them. Bandit signs work. It sounds ridiculous, and they suck to put out. Yeah. But if you do it, and you do it consistently, it will generate leads. And it's a very... back then, especially when you're broke, right? Because so many of us start out just absolutely broke, where you have to just really, just bootstrap your way up, right? Mm-hmm. So I was actually going down to Birmingham to a company called TubeLight, which is a distributor for sign companies. And I would go there and buy literally 500 to 700 blank bandit signs and stands, drive them all the way back up here. Some of them I would cut them in half so that I could get 2 signs out of it. And I would sit there all week and I would with a marker, we buy houses, and our phone number. And we hand wrote those because I couldn't afford to to buy printed signs, and I didn't have time to wait 3 or 4 weeks. Like I needed them now. So yeah, it was just a different time. You just had to figure it out. You got up every day and you're like, okay, I have a wife, 2 boys, and 3 fat dogs. What am I going to do? Like you have to do something, right? You got to do something.
Yeah.
So
I see that in a lot of new investors right now, is that like you took massive action because you needed it, right? And a lot of times I'll see like new investors, they'll order their postcards, and then for 2 weeks they're sitting there like twiddling their thumbs. And I'm like,
oh man,
no. I was like, go out, find wholesalers, go to networking.
Yeah,
don't wait.
The first time I coached, I worked for this company, and we were sort of like business development coaches for wholesalers. So we would do like these 6 calls, and then we would actually go visit them in their city. And then we would do 4 follow-up calls. And the calls would be like, okay, we're going to pull a list. Okay, next week we're going to mail it out. Okay, next, or, bandit signs, whatever their budget would allot for. And I can't tell you how many times I would land in their city and I'm like, well, what have you done? Well, nothing yet, because I don't have my website set up. I'm like, oh. What do? You don't need a website. I don't have my business cards yet. I'm like, you don't need a business card. All you need to do is talk to somebody who has a problem and solve their problem, right? But yeah, you just inherently, people will, and maybe that's human nature, right? Or just the way our biology, the way we're built, like our body and our brain is trying to find a way to keep us out of danger, right? And they see something, your body, brain maybe senses something new as danger, right? So we're going to procrastinate. But yeah, I mean, the same thing happened to me. I tried to wholesale in Florida, and I'm like, it didn't really work because I didn't need it to work, right? But clearly, if you need it to work, it will. And, this is the example I give to people. If I was to hold a gun to your loved one's head, and I hate to use that example, but if I was, or somebody was, right? And they said, you have 12 hours, Wyatt, to go find a deal. I guarantee you the dumbest of us would go find a deal.
Yeah,
you'd go find a wholesaler, you go knock on some door, you would go figure it out. So now we've created a baseline that, yes, you can go find a deal every 12 hours if you are motivated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the difference. Are you motivated to do it or are you not? Are you willing to get up out of your chair and go do it? Like I bet you I could do it in 3 or 4 hours. Like, I mean, of course, you and me are a lot more advanced than some people, but everybody can do it in 12 or 24 hours. Every single person. You just got to want it. That's it. Like, that's the only difference.
I used to say everybody could do it if I can do it. And I think that's true to a point, but I'm starting, man, the more I do this, the more I see, sometimes I rethink that what I say,
Well, man, I mean, listen, you and me both know some guys that are dumb, that are making a tremendous amount of money because they just do the thing over and over and over again, right? Getting rich is not complicated. Wholesaling, real estate, you can explain to a 3rd grader, man. We buy low, we sell high. It's not hard, right? You just got to go out there and do the thing. You got to go out and talk to people and just get in the game. And it really is that simple, right? Just for whatever reason, we just avoid, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, you done those 30 something deals your first year, and just to kind of fast forward a little bit, you scaled up this huge wholesaling business, and then you scaled down this huge wholesaling business. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go into detail about that, but what has changed since that first year to this year, and how has that affected the way you do things now?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've scaled up and down a couple of times. We got really big, and then I scaled the wholesaling down to focus on rehabs in like 2014 when the market shifted. And then I brought in a young guy who just got out of college who just was relentless at following me around and trying to learn the business. So I brought him in, taught him acquisitions, and we scaled it back up again. So he was doing acquisitions. I dispoed plus did my rehabs. And then I brought in another partner that and we scaled it up even bigger. And that's when we went nationwide, or like 28 markets across the country. And then, I lost the first partner, then I lost the second partner, scaled it. It like literally went to 0 overnight. And then, we're like, okay, well, we got to do this again. But once you learn this stuff, right, you can't take it out of your brain. Like nobody can steal that from you. They could take, they could take all our money, they could take everything. But if I can come up with a pad of paper and a pen and a ride, I can go out and find more deals, right? So, we literally brought it to 0. We restructured, and within 3 months, we were back over 100,000 a month, right? So, So I've scaled it up and down just a bunch of times. What's different? I mean, I just think experience just really changes you, right? You know, we were having a meeting yesterday and we're talking about getting to $30 million in our title company. And I'm like, it's just a number, man. It's just like, let's just backwards engineer it. I think you do get some confidence over time, right? Of, you know, hey, this is very doable. There's a process. We're going to follow the process and we're going to do the thing. And I think after you've been through this a couple of times, you just know that you're going to get hit in the face with a baseball bat a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have bad days. Yesterday was a bad day around here. Like just everybody was grumpy and nobody just, you know, we had to get on some people on our team. Like we just, you know, it's just one of those days, but you come in the next day and, you know, you can't have 2 bad days in a row. Like that's kind of a rule that we have. It's okay. Have a bad day, go home, cry into your pillow, do what you got to do, man. But come back the next day, and we're gonna get back on the horse and get this done. But yeah, I mean, just it's experience. You know, you recognize that this is doable. To you know, just learning how to backwards engineer stuff and figure out, okay, this is where we want to go, this is where we want to be. Let's work it backwards and figure out what that's going to take. And then just perseverance and determination.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Like, you've got to know going into this business, if I can tell you anything, if David can tell you anything, like, you are going to get hit in the face with a baseball bat, like, and it's going to hurt. But if you can just get back up and keep on rolling, like, too many people quit after, you know, one bad deal. And I mean, we've had, me and you, I'm sure we've had a ton of bad deals. Like my third flip, I think I lost 60 grand and I wanted to crawl up in a hole and die. And I had people, I had just joined a mastermind and I went there with about 30 other people in a room. And I told them, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose it all. And, you know, I just remember one guy saying, bro, that ain't even a fraction of what you're going to lose. So suck it up and let's go.
And there, I think that's incredibly important, talking about masterminds and coaching groups and things, right? You have to have a tribe, right? You have to be around people that are doing this business, because if you're trying to do it solo and it's lonely, right? Imagine sitting at your kitchen table and you're calling people, they're telling you go F yourself, you know, or nobody's answering, you're just doing this all day and you have nobody to like just be around, right? So, you know, what I love about, you know, masterminds and just having great friends all around the country like you that we can call is, hey man, geez, I'm just having a bad day. Yep, I get it. What happened? Okay, here's the answer, right? Because in a mastermind, the whole idea is we're going to get all these people together, you know, people who are like-minded, and somebody in that group, if we're in a group of 10 or 15, 20, 30 people, my biggest problem, somebody there is already knocked out and has the answer. Also, somebody there has a problem that I've already figured out, right? So that's that sense of collaboration and why you should be doing these meetups and masterminds and getting in these coaching groups, because it will just rapidly, you know, increase, you know, your learning curve. You get to the top floor so much faster, right? But, you know, you have to buy your friends. You know, it's a crazy thing, man. Like I've forgot all of my best friends have come from being in paid masterminds because they're like people that I want to be around, right? They're people who are sometimes doing better than me. Sometimes they're a little bit less, but they're all people who are on that journey with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing that, you know, we're not telling you to do anything that we haven't done ourselves. Like we know we're always going to have coaches. We will always have coaches because that's, why in the world would I try to figure it out when somebody else has already figured it out, paved the way, and done it for me, you know?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting too, we share a coach, but it's not always this like, you know, your coach says something to you and like the skies open up and the angels come down and sing hallelujah to you, like you're like, oh yeah. Well, that's common sense. Why didn't I think of that? Right? Or you just need sometimes someone to bounce stuff off and go, hey man, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? Don't do that. That's dumb. Right?
Yeah.
So don't do that. That's dumb might have saved you 6 months of your life. Right? So that's the idea behind all this is, you know, how do we use that shared knowledge and get better faster? You know, that's it.
Yeah. Mine's always just, the first thing he says is, you should be making so much more money right now. Like, every time I just break ceilings. He's like, you should be doing more right now. I'm like, come on, man. You need somebody to kick your ass too sometimes. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Like, and I've got friends like that where I have to tell them, hey, just quit your crying. Like you can be woe is me today, but tomorrow you're getting up and you're doing this thing. Right. Cause you know, the thing and this is the Instagram, TikTok, whatever Reels generation where everybody sees the Rolexes and the Lambos, right? And it's only good news. I'm here to tell you, and I know a lot of people, same as you in the industry, every single one of them has bad days. Right. A lot of them are full of crap, and a lot of the stuff they post is not real. So don't judge yourself by that. Right. Everybody has tough days where they go home and just stare at the walls and go, what life choice did I make? Why am I doing this? But, at the end of the day, I would rather have the worst day in real estate than the best day at a 9-to-5 job.
100%.
Because I'm in control of my own destiny.
Well, tell us about Easy, man. How can we work with you? What is Easy, and how can we work with you?
Yeah, man. So, after doing this for 22 years and full-time being a wholesaler for 15 years, which again is a stupid amount of time, I realized that there was just this chasm, black hole in real estate education and services, right? Everybody focuses on acquisitions and marketing and, all that kind of front end stuff. Nobody really was focusing on dispositions until I was teaching it. And even beyond that, nobody talks about how to get your deals closed. It's always, well, just send it to a title company, an investor friendly title company. And that sounds great. But what happens is, the statistics show that 50% of your deals will never close. Like, that's a nationwide statistic. 50% are not going to close. And that's blended, of course, between virtual people and in person, right? Some virtual people, 30 or 40% close, whereas maybe in person, 70 or 80% might close, right? But the problem is there's so many title issues. So, on top of just figuring out how to clear title, because none of us, when we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, were like, hey, and you're going to need to go take a class and learn all about title abstracting. It's going to be fun, right? You're going to need to figure out what to do with lost death certificates and where do you go for a mortgage that was never released, but that company's out of business, right? Like all these weird things that hold us up and keep our 60, 70, 80, $100,000 deals from closing, right? Like, where do you learn to do that? Because if you go to a title company, a lot of times they're going to just blow you off because it's a pain in the butt and they don't want to fix it for the $300-400 that they're going to make. So on top of that, I just realized how much time it was consuming me, right? And being a full-time wholesaler, I was doing a lot of the transactional coordination as an owner, and dude, it was 30% of my time easy. And I just felt like it was constantly just walking through quicksand, like death of 1,000 paper cuts. So that, when we ran our company, I hired our first transaction coordinator and she was amazing. As we grew, we hired more and more. And when COVID happened and everybody let people go, remember, it was like 6 weeks and then all of a sudden, the market blew up again. So I had some people, some cartel boss, investor lift guys, like big guys, call me and go, hey, you still have your TCs? Hey, can you help me with a couple of these things? So we sort of fell back into the transaction coordination business that way, just helping some of the biggest wholesalers. And then I was at an event down in Cancun or Cozumel, somewhere down there, a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to open a business for transaction coordination. And one of my buddies, Corey Geary, goes, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. That's brain damage. I'm like, yeah, man, I know, but people struggle with it, right? I struggled with it. I feel like I'm pretty good. And it was a pain point in my business because, again, nobody comes into this business to learn how to do that stuff. And, it's not the thing that you should be spending your time on. For the same reason we outsource your PPC and your cold calling and your direct to mail. Why? Because you should be spending time on the phone talking to sellers and buyers, right? Not doing those things. Well, on the backside of the deal also, you should not be spending 20, 30% of your time chasing down paperwork. Even easy deals are going to cost you a lot of time, right? And if you're messing around trying to find a title company to close your deal, well, what are you not doing? You're not taking your calls from sellers. You're not getting on your new leads. You're not working on dispoing that property, or you're not taking care of your rentals, whatever it is. So that was kind of how it got started. And, we knew when we started that we were going to want it to serve all 50 states because we knew that wholesalers were working everywhere, right? And today it may be Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, but we could switch it to be Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey next month, right? So we knew that we had to be set up and working licensed in all 50 states. And then beyond that, because I'm a real investor, we do different types of deals. We knew that our coordinators needed to be certified to handle wholesale, novations, wraps, sub two, assignments, all of the different things. So that was what we set out to do. Late 2020, opened in 2021, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. We 4X the company last year. We'll 3X it this year. I think last year we did $238 million in transactions and 2,200 files.
That's awesome.
So it's been fun. We have the honor and pleasure to work with some of the biggest names that in wholesaling, and it's not my deal to call them out, but all the YouTube guys, they come to us to run their transactions because they know that we'll get it done.
Yeah. So once I get my property under contract, if I'm wholesaling or novating, so you guys handle the back end. So I just send you you do the title company, you close it, you
literally, you're going to give me that contract from Mrs. Smith, right? 123 Main Street. You're going to upload that to me. Somebody on my team, Lee's he's sitting right outside my door here. He's going to call, hey, Mrs. Smith, this is Lee. I'm working with Wyatt on your deal over here at 123 Main Street. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm going to be your point of contact from here all the way to closing. You're out. Go do what you need to do. We're going to take this over from here. So great. So Mrs. Smith, I need to ask you a couple questions from the title company so we can get you paid just as quickly as possible, right? Because we're always dangling that carrot to move them along, because let's be honest, that's what they're all motivated by. So yeah, from there, we've got this 5-page questionnaire that we'll ask them. And the questionnaire is not the answers, right? It just tells us where the problems are. Oh, there's a dead person. Great. Let's dig into that. Who is it? Draw me a family tree. Let's see who we're going to need to sign. Do you have a death certificate? Do you have an obituary? Do you have, was there a will? Was it probated? All of these questions. Oh, you're in bankruptcy. Fantastic. Who's your bankruptcy attorney? When was it filed? Do you have a date coming up? What is it going to take to get a release on the property so we can have it extracted from the bankruptcy, right? So that's what our coordinators are really good at doing. They're like Neo in the Matrix, man. They've seen all of the problems after doing, over all these years, over 4,000 files. They get it. There's nothing that you're going to have that they haven't seen before. And, one thing I like to tell people is close your eyes. Think of the worst deal you've ever had. The deal that made you want to quit being an investor. That's just a Tuesday for us. It's literally just the stuff that, our coordinators, because we're closing anywhere from 80 to 95 or 100 deals per week for investors. We close a lot of deals, and you don't close that many unless you're really good. And I'd love to say it's me. I mean, I used to think I was good, but the guys and gals on our team are just amazing.
Dude, that's awesome. Heck yeah. Well, if you're in our school group or you follow me on social media, I've got a link that you can use to get to David and have a conversation with him or his team about working together, and so you may even get some type of special something if you use that code.
We got some special stuff going on. I mean, if you're out there and you're doing at least 2 deals a month and you want to scale your company, 100% book a call. If you're brand new, you just want to chat about it, that's cool. Book the call, but you're probably not going to be ready for us yet. But, if you want to grow your company, man, we will give you your time back so that you can really focus on the core of your business, which is talking to buyers and sellers.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah. I love it, 100%. Well, hey, if you guys heard anything that you liked, make sure and share this podcast episode. Rate it, comment on it, do whatever the heck you can with whatever you're listening with. But hey, if you heard something, you're like, man, I'm interested in doing what these guys do, then just go to ezREIclosings.com, fill out the application. I will talk to you and call you personally, and we'll have a conversation about it. So, man, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Mm-hmm. Wyatt, thanks so much, man, for having me on. It was always a pleasure.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, how can people find you? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I do some stuff on Instagram. David Olds, REI. Pretty easy to find. We put out a bunch of content. So, there. Same thing on YouTube. We got a YouTube channel and Facebook. It's the same across all the platforms. David Olds, OLDS, and then REI. So.
Nice. Love it, man.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
See you.